Welcome to Childcare Conversations, the podcast where early childhood leaders like you get real-world strategies, honest talk, and a whole lot of support. Whether you're running one center or many, we're here to help you lead with confidence and clarity. This episode is brought to you by our summer partner, Childcare Business Growth, your go-to solution for filling spots, increasing revenue, and scaling your childcare business without the burnout. We're proud to partner with a team that's as committed to your success as we are. Learn more at childcarebusinessgrowth.com. Now, let's get into today's conversation, one we think you're really going to love.
Well, today's episode is brought to you by South Texas, and we are so excited to bring Lily on and to have a conversation about building family legacy and that unexpected kind of reward that comes from working with folks you've known, well, not quite all your life, but, at least since high school. And so we're excited to bring Lily on. And so with that, Lily, introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about your program, and then we're just going to have a conversation.
Oh, hi. My name is Lily Lugo. I own Alphabet Playhouse in Brownsville, Texas. And I also have another center in Harlingen, but that one's where my son is at. And I've been doing this for the childcare business for 10 years, early childhood for 32 years.
Awesome. And how did you find yourself when you say you were in the business for 32 years? What does that mean?
I started as a work study at the TSC lab school. I was not studying childcare. I was studying to be a substance abuse counselor. I wanted to be a social worker. That was always my dream.
Okay.
But my mother was the cook.
So you kind of do, but now it's pacifiers and bottles. Trying to help people no longer need their pacifiers and bottles.
Yes, but I think I was a little bit too young for that. So it kind of scared me off when I would go to the AA meetings and everybody was still kind of drunk. Yeah, so that really wasn't for me. But they offered me a work study job because I was always there. And at that time, the actual girls that were studying childcare couldn't handle the children. And I went in, they told me what to do, and apparently I did really well because I became the teacher aide for the pre-K teacher. And after that, I was moved to Head Start because I wanted to be a caseworker, a social worker, but I was still too young, according to them, because I had no children. I was 19. So I became a teacher aide, then a teacher. Then eventually I got my opportunity to apply for a caseworker in Head Start, but at the same time, I applied for the CCS subsidy program, and I got the position there. Thanks to Christian, because he was 6 months old, and apparently because I had the parent experience, they hired me.
I love that
Who knew
story.
your baby could get you a job?
Yes,
exactly. Babies could get you a job?
So I was there for 6 years. Eventually I was a supervisor for 3 years. And then we got the opportunity to go work for a grant at UTB at that time, which is now UTRGV. And we were doing a research grant for daycares. We were trying to prove if we gave quality training, the children would do better. So we both got certified to do research, and also that's where my training consulting became. We would train the teachers. We did that for 3 years. I took a year off to finish school. And I did finish my sociology degree with 18 hours of childcare. And right after I graduated, there was a position open for the coordinator for the board office for Camera and Works. And I applied and I got it. So I did that for 7 years. And again, I was a little bit, not bored, but the challenge was no longer there.
Okay, so real quick, for those who are listening who are not exactly sure everything that Lily said because you aren't from Texas. So Lily did some work with Head Start, then went to do some research with a local university in the southern part of Texas. And then from there, she went to run one of the state agencies-ish They're a little different in Texas than most states that does
So
the quality improvement program. So if you are a child care block grant fundee anywhere in the country, your state probably manages it differently. Texas definitely does it its own way. And Lily was in charge of one county. But again, Texas counties aren't the same as other states. And so this is not a small county, and it is definitely a unique county. And a lot of that is because of geography. So, all right. So I did my little insert. What
yeah, well,
does
you
Cameron
skipped a
County
couple of the
Workforce
things
Board
she did,
mean?
but you hit the big ones, right?
Yeah.
Because she also worked as a caseworker. And anyway, but she's done lots of things in different levels. She's worked in the classroom, she's worked as a supervisor, now an owner. She's worked with a state agency, a funding agency, and a research. I mean, that's and training. So that's a lot of different hats you've worn over the years,
Oh
Lily.
yeah.
Like that's kind of impressive. Have you taken a moment to kind of be impressed with yourself? Because it's kind of impressive.
Actually, not really lately. I have after I came back from Miami. I was like, dang, I'm pretty cool.
You
You are
are. We
pretty
think you're pretty
cool.
cool too.
We knew Christian was cool, but now we know where he gets it.
Okay, well, we have to be honest. So those who have not ever heard this story, the reason we think Christian is cool is because the Christian is the first person in the wild who came up to us and said, "I listened to your podcast," and we had never met him before. And so we were in basically the town where Lily is from, and we were doing a training at that conference. And it was the first time somebody, and I do refer to that as in the wild, and came up to us out of nowhere and basically said, "Hey, I listened to your podcast." And so we were so tickled. So the next time we saw him at a conference, we're like, "Hey, we need you on our podcast," because you don't often find a lot of men in early childcare. And we were so excited that not only did we meet him once, he was still here a year later. And even more, building the business with his family. And so that's kind of the direction we're going to hopefully carry this conversation, because Lily, you've created something in South Texas, and I want to talk a little bit more about that. So, you started with one school, correct?
We
How
started
many?
with, we have three right now.
Okay.
We actually started as a partner with the actual owner of Alphabet. We took over Harlingen. There's two centers in Harlingen, and I had no money, so she needed my resume and my background.
Mm-hmm.
So we did that for 6 months, but our vision was very different. So I guess she decided to, one day she just called me and said, "Hey, I'll give you my center in Brownsville and you let me keep the two in Harlingen." And I said yes. So that's how I ended up with a 175 capacity center in Brownsville. Um, but I had been training her staff for 10 years.
Okay, so
So I
she knew
was
you.
very familiar with her staff and they all loved me. So they all stay with me. So that helped me a lot.
So you started with one very large school in
Yes.
Brownsville, and now you have more than that. What prompted taking on the next location, and what's it like working with people who have known you forever?
Actually, the Harlingen location that Christian has, it belonged to that partnership.
Okay.
And when she
Oh.
wanted to sell out, she had to sell it to me because we have a contract with the city. So so she would have Dorothy again. And
Mhm.
we said yes. I asked Christian, "Hey, I always ask Christian before I even ask my husband, because Christian's just like me." And I asked him, "Hey, you want to do this? We'll put in your name." And he said, "Mom, as long as it's not a shady business, we'll do whatever you want." So that's how he ended up with a center as young as he was. 'Cause I believe he was 21
Which
when we
is
got
the
that center.
minimum age for being a director in the
Uh-huh.
state of Texas.
Yes.
And, it has that whole has to have been in the industry for at least 2 years. Well, if he grew up in a center, then he
Yes.
probably had worked for more than 2 years by the time he was 21.
Yes, he started
And
when he
you
was
said you never
17.
expected that he would be, yeah, you said you weren't necessarily expecting him to be the one of your family that wanted to go into the industry. Why do you think that changed? We've heard his version. I want to hear your version. Why do you think it changed?
I think he saw, well, we bought another center right before COVID in San Benito. We bought the building. It was an opportunity. And I always had, I still have access to his bank account. So I knew he had some money saved. So I say, hey, you go have, I go have, we buy the building, right? He was like, okay, mom. So we did that. We were just going to open when COVID hit, and we were not able to open till after COVID. So when it did open, we made him the director. And that just completely changed the way he started thinking about, childcare. He took more ownership in that when I made him director, even though he had been the owner of the other center. And I asked him why. Because now I'm the director. Now I'm in charge. Because in Harlingen, he had a director that he had to listen to. So that completely changed, how he was thinking. And he still had all these other plans. Um, until he went through 2 years. He tried really hard. It was really stressing him out. So we sold it. And we invested in another smaller center that we were not going to keep. But eventually that person didn't like it. So we took over also. But just in the last year, he said, you know what, I want to do this, I want to do that. And I said, well, I only have 8 more years on me in the daycare, but I'm 52. And unless you're going to take over, then, we're going to do all this stuff. And he said, yep, I'm willing. Are you gonna give them to me? And I said, no, sir, I'm gonna sell them to you as my retirement.
That's
And he,
right. You got to fund that
ah,
retirement.
and he said, well, just give me a good price. And I said, I'll give it to you in payments. So and I also think it's his partner. He became a little bit more stable after he started living with her, and she's getting her master's in speech pathology, and she's also not working in one of our centers. And first they didn't want to, and now like they're taking over, like they're taking more ownership, and I'm really happy for that because we worked really hard for all this.
All right.
Well,
So
I think that's
oh,
amazing.
I just have to ask this question because we get a fair amount of folks who listen who are in a similar situation in the fact that a parent, usually mom, owns the business and their goal is to turn it over to their children. But sometimes there's a little reluctant to let go. What advice would you give to somebody who has strong, capable, business minded children who are working in the business beside them? And again, the one that I'm thinking of specifically is a multi site, right? So,
Mhm.
some of the children work in some of the other locations, but the leader, the founder is having a little hard time just actually doing that let go. What would you say to them if you were like, you can build this as a family legacy, but at some point in time, you have to not be snooping through their bank accounts?
I don't do that no more.
I love that story. I'm gonna keep that in the back of my mind forever. Next time I see Christian, I'm just gonna chuckle. But in the meantime, what would you say to somebody who is really struggling with letting go?
I've never really micromanaged anybody, not even my children. Um, that's why once I only go to his center. I kind of facilitate, make sure everything's being run accordingly, and I treat him like one of my directors. I don't really go and micromanage. When I go to their center, actually, I go help in the kitchen. And I tell them because I'm not the one that's always here. So I'm not, so you're the ones that run it daily. So I don't like stepping on anybody's feet. And so he has great ideas. And I always tell them, I will take everybody's ideas unless it's going to hurt our pocket. Then I'm going to say, okay, hold on, because that might affect us. But at the end of the day, they're the ones that are running that every day. And I do the same with my other centers. even though they're not, there's not family members there. I do have one of my younger sister at Alphabet. She's in charge of all the food program. So I know, that they're always watching, but I have a really good relationship with my directors. And I let them decide, this is your center. The staff does not come to me for any problem. They go to them for everything. Unless it's something to do with mentoring or stuff like that, they have questions on, I'll help them out. But if they come ask me for, can I have a day off or anything like that, or you need to go talk to your supervisor, because I'm not your supervisor, I'm their supervisor. But I got this from the workforce. So that's how I manage the centers. So I'm ready, girl. I'm not, believe me, the moment he says, I want to take over, I'm ready to say, see you later and not go back. He'll be ready. Because I feel that they function better without me than when I'm there.
I love that. I love that because I think that's such
Yeah.
great real life, practical, and simple advice, which is I'm their boss, but they're your boss. And I just think that's a great little nugget of information. Carrie, you look like you want to ask a question.
I was just going to say that is something for every owner who is not an owner director to keep in mind. Is you don't want to set up a step parent situation, right? Where the kids go around and they ask everybody until they get the answer they want.
Yeah, and that's what I was trying to avoid.
I was a parent. I was a kid of divorce, and my brother was very much, he would check with all 4 available adults until he got the answer he wanted. And sometimes he'd go back through, try asking the question a different way. And we've seen that in centers where they have an admin team and they go and ask everybody on the admin team and then the owner trying to get the answer that they want. And you don't want that. That's not good.
But I think the way you mentioned it, I think is what's key. And that is telling the staff person, well, you need to go check with them. And I think that's the piece that sometimes the owners kind of forget, which is like they may not answer, or they may even ask a question about, oh, well, what did so-and-so say? But I like the fact that you didn't even answer it. You're just like, no.
Yeah.
And go talk to that person.
Sometimes I feel a little bit bad, but I'm like, no, because I don't let it, because I'm trying to avoid, conflict.
Yep.
Plus, I don't want to take the authority out of the directors.
Well, I think that's a great point, because we get a lot of people who are conflict avoidant. And so I love the fact that your view is you do this so that you're avoiding conflict.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that everybody who might be listening that identifies themselves as conflict avoidant may not view that response as that. But I think that's a great point, that you are avoiding conflict because you're like, that's not my monkey. Go talk to the director.
Even Christian does that at his center. When I go to his center, I'm Christian's mom. They don't even know my name. Everybody just calls me Christian's mom. And the staff goes to the director. They don't go to him. I mean, she'll discuss. We'll have, we're always in communication, always. But for example, today I haven't even called that I'm not going yet. And no one's called me because everybody's running, doing what they're supposed to do. And I'll just show up suddenly.
No. Well, I think we could have another 45 minutes conversation about the things that you've learned having gone in your very interesting career path. And I wanted to do another episode where we talk about working with one of your best friends. But we've taken a lot of your time already today. So I want to be a little bit respectful and say that if you need somebody who can help you with your program and you're in South Texas, please definitely reach out to Lily, and she's there to help you. She will travel. I think she's a great resource to owners and to directors, and please use her as such, especially if you are having some issues with cultural understanding with Hispanic populations. She's helped us with that a little bit already, and we've only known her, a month and a half, 2 months? So definitely use Lily as a resource. We'll put her contact information in the doobly-doo. And Kate, you want to wrap us up?
Absolutely.
She
So
does not want to wrap us up. She is laughing because she doesn't like the doobly-doo.
sometimes Carrie says things that just make me kind of chuckle, and doobly doo and other words often make that happen. So, anyway, we know that you got something from this episode, and we know that there is somebody who you have met at a conference who absolutely needs to hear Lily's advice on working and building that legacy. So, share the show, leave a review, and we can't wait to see you on our next episode.
Thanks for tuning in. We love bringing you real talk and fresh insight from the world of early childhood education. Be sure to follow us on social media to stay connected and catch all of the latest episodes. And if you're planning a conference, training, or special event, Kate and Carrie would love to speak to your audience. You can learn more about their keynote sessions and workshops at kateandcarrie.com. If you learned something today, share the show and leave us a review below. We'll see you next time on Childcare Conversations.